Welcome to the show. The following video is a re-upload from Macabre'Gorium Labs, link in the description. Hey, this is our 20th School of Boredom Extra Credit. Brand promotions have been a fascinating gimmick as long as brands have existed. From toys that used to be in the cereal box to the sometimes coveted, unnamed fast food promotional items, it goes without saying that the best way to lure in new customers is by offering them an incentive that can be produced for little to no money. This also has the effect of ensuring that the most avid of collectors will be able to build their future retirement by acquiring these items. Among these collectibles, we find the topic of today's video. My name is Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore School of Boredom Extra Credit number 20, 13 video games based on food or food mascots. Number 13. KoolAid and the KoolAid Man video game. At one point or another, we've all seen or heard of our next entry, the KoolAid Man. You know, that large pitcher of usually red Kool-Aid that bursts into people's walls and houses?
Oh yeah, here comes KoolAid.
At some point, somebody decided a video game would be awesome, so in 1983, KoolAid Man got his game. The game was made for the Atari 2600 and was published by Mattel. There was also a completely different game developed for Intellivision, which was another popular video game system of the time. Originally, the only way you could get a copy of this game was through the mail by mailing in 125 proof of purchase points. Eventually, the game would be available at retail stores. On the Atari 2600, the game was a pool of water with creatures called the Thirsties. The Thirsties try to drink all the water in the pool, and if you hit a Thirsty while it was not drinking from the pool, you would be sent back in the game. However, if a Thirsty was drinking from the pool, they were vulnerable to attack. I think it goes without saying that Kool-Aid would be used to quench the Thirsties, and winning each level usually required you to beat approximately 30 Thirsties. This would move you up to a faster level. However, if you run out of time or if the Thirsties drank all of the pool water, your game is over. Number 12. Doritos. Doritos Crash Course. The next entry on our list is Doritos Crash Course. It was a 3D side-scrolling game made for the Xbox 360. Although it later had versions for Xbox One and Windows. To play this game, you would use your Xbox 360 avatar to run an obstacle course before you run out of time. There were also checkpoints, so if you fell off the course, you would reset at the last checkpoint you had passed. This game had 3 locations set in Europe, Japan, and the United States, with each location having 5 levels and various obstacles to deal with. Think Wipeout. Number 11. Domino's Pizza. Avoid the Noid. For our first entry, we're going to go all the way back to 1986, when Domino's Pizza first introduced us to their mascot, a goofy-looking little character called the Noid. Will Vinton was hired by Group 243, Domino's advertising agency, to sketch and animate the Noid. The character design for the Noid was done by Christopher and Brian Baker. The Noid wears a red rabbit-eared costume with a black N and a white circle on his chest. He was meant to show, in a comedic way, the challenges delivery drivers face trying to deliver in 30 minutes or less. Since the Noid is trying to stop the driver from being on time, thus people would get free pizza. In 1989, the Noid was featured in a video game called Avoid the Noid for the Commodore 64 and MS-DOS. Gameplay had you trying to deliver a pizza to Doom Industries in the penthouse with the Noid thwarting your attempts. If you haven't figured it out yet, the player took on the role of the pizza delivery boy who was armed with a very limited supply of Noid avoiders that caused the Noid creatures to disappear from the screen. Each screen of the game was 3 floors and also had traps to avoid. The goal was to make it to the elevator so the player could make it to the next floor. Some of them were locked, which forced you to find the key. When you are in the elevators, your character is safe, but the Noid creatures will also come out of them and can knock the player down in the halls. If you are unsuccessful in avoiding the Noid, the player gets stunned and the Noid can then destroy your pizza. However, if this happens 3 times and you lose 3 pizzas, your game is over. In 1990, Capcom tried another Noid game called Yo Noid. It was a 2D platform game published by Capcom for the original NES console. Turns out this game flipped the story, as this time you're the Noid, and you're asked by the mayor of New York to stop Mr. Green, the Noid's evil twin, and save everyone. If the Noid completes this objective, the mayor has promised a massive pizza reward. As for gameplay, it had basic side-scrolling action. While you're trying to get Mr. Green, you encounter some of Mr. Green's creatures that you must defeat. There are a lot of ways to fail with this game, which made it extremely frustrating. Most NES games are hard, but this one was especially so. As of 2021, Domino's Pizza has brought the Noid back into popular culture, and we're glad to see this goofy guy again. We just wish they'd have the 30 minutes or less slogan come back. Number 10. McDonald's Treasureland Adventure. Yeah, we know, McDonald's has a lot, and I mean a lot, of video games. However, today, we're going to be focusing on McDonald's Treasureland Adventure, made for the Sega Genesis in 1993. As for gameplay, you take on the role of Ronald McDonald. With Birdie, Grimace, Hamburglar, and the Fry Kids in tow, you go on a mission to search for missing pieces to a map. The map in question, once assembled, gives the location of a buried treasure, but the missing pieces were taken by villains, of course. There are 4 worlds that are broken into 3 stages, and you can collect a variety of power-ups to help along the way. This game is very similar to other side-scrolling games of the time, and is a fun little game to give a try. Number 9. The Coca-Cola Company, Pepsi Invaders. Believe it or not, there are many Coca-Cola video games, but today we're going to be talking about one of the rarest games ever made, Coke Wins. In 1983, the Coca-Cola Company had 125 copies of a game called Pepsi Invaders, made to give out at their sales convention. This was to boost the overall morale of the Coca-Cola employees. Pepsi Invaders was made for the Atari 2600 and new is currently going on auction sites like eBay upwards of $3,500, with used copies going for around $1,000, if you could even find it. In a case of people not knowing exactly what they had, it is considered one of the rarest Atari 2600 games, as most copies got thrown away by the people that received them. The gameplay for this one is similar to that of Space Invaders, only the word Pepsi appears in 6 rows with an alien at the end of each one instead of all aliens. You are required to shoot all of the letters and the aliens. Again, if you've played Space Invaders, you pretty much get the idea of this game. There are 2 bands of the same brown liquid, one of which had the word Coke, so if you get all the invaders and the UFO disappears, the score will say wins. So then it reads Coke Wins, which is what the game is often mistakenly called. Number 8. Pepsi Cola, Pepsi Man. Pepsi decided to have a video game made for the PlayStation back in 1999 that was published by KID named Pepsi Man. The Pepsi Man game has 4 stages, each divided into smaller parts in which Pepsi Man must save people from being dehydrated. It has been said that this game is like a Crash Bandicoot clone as far as playing style, although some critics say it is too simplistic. Our advice? Try it out and make the decision for yourself. Number 7. 7-Up, Cool Spot. Since both Coke and Pepsi had video games, 7-Up decided to follow suit with their game called Cool Spot. This title came out in 1993 for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, with later being ported to other systems like the Game Boy, Game Gear, and MS-DOS. Spot, the 7-Up dot, is the mascot for 7-Up if you didn't already know. He's a plucky red spot with hands, feet, and some cool black shades. In this game, you play as Cool Spot and try to rescue other spots around various levels. There was a timer for each level, and things that damaged Cool Spot included getting hit by enemies, avoiding obstacles and projectiles. Like many of the older games from this time, there was no save feature. However, there were checkpoints. There was even a bonus stage that you could play, provided you collected enough spots. During these bonus stages, you can find a hidden letter. Depending on the version of the game you're playing, it will spell out either Uncola or Virgin. This is due to the game being produced by Virgin Interactive. Each time you get a letter, you will get a continue that allows Cool Spot to restart on the level in which he died. But your points will be reset. Still better than losing all your progress, though. Number 6. Cheetos. Chester Cheetah, Too Cool to Fool. Chester Cheetah has been the mascot of the Cheetos Frito-Lay brand snack since 1986 when he first took over the duties of the Cheetos mouse. Chester Cheetah was marketed as an extremely cool, hip cat that had great catchphrases like "Clip, it's not easy being cheesy," and "The cheese that goes crunch." In 1992, we got the Chester Cheetah Too Cool to Fool game. It was published by Kaneko for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. The plot of this game is that Chester has been kidnapped by Mean Eugene, a resident of the Four Corners Zoo. The gameplay is like most side-scrolling games. On each level, you have to collect a piece of Chester's motorcycle. If you can make it to the end of the level, you have collected the piece. You do, of course, have various enemies to fight until you reach the last boss, Mean Eugene. If you are good enough to beat Mean Eugene, Chester will get to ride away on his now repaired motorcycle heading for Hip City. Number 5. Burger King's Big Bumpin', Sneak King, and Pocket Bike Racer. For this entry, we're going to talk about the 3 Burger King games that came out in 2006 and were available as a promotion from November to December of that year. There were mixed reviews on the games, but that was enough for Burger King to start selling them separately for $3.99 a piece. Originally, you had to buy a meal to get them, but after a while, they said you could just buy them without the food. Of course, we're talking about the King games: Pocket Bike Racer, Big Bumpin', and Sneak King. These games are pretty aptly named, so you pretty much know what you're getting before you even buy them. First up is Pocket Bike Racer, which was developed by Blitz Games and is a racing game. The twist is that the vehicles are all miniature versions of actual vehicles. You could play this game by yourself or with up to 8 other players if you were using Xbox Live to play. It was an alright game if you like racing games. However, in the end it got pulled from Xbox Live and went on sale as a physical copy you could only get from Burger King. Then we got Big Bumpin'. This game, of course, was based on bumper cars and had characters that we all associate with Burger King, like the King. There are various obstacles and traps in the arenas to avoid while you hurtle to the finish line. Out of the 3 games we are covering, Big Bumpin' was the most popular with people. Now, in Goat's opinion, the last game on the list was the best, and that would be Sneak King. There are 2 modes of play to this game, and the first is free play. Free play means you're not in an active challenge. You play as the king and walk around freely. This mode also means you get to see what challenges you haven't done. Then on the other hand, there's challenge mode, and this is the mode where the game picks up. You take on the role of none other than the king. You have to sneak around and deliver burgers to hungry NPCs in order to complete missions. The game was one of those wonderfully corny games that became great because it's corny. One important note is that all of these games were produced in just 7 months. Knowing that, we think they did a pretty decent job. Number 4. Chex cereal, Chex Quest. Even cereal companies were having video games made like Chex Quest. This game is a non-violent first-person shooter targeted to children 6 and up. This game came out in 1996 and is like a children's version of the adult Doom game. The game was first released for DOS and Microsoft Windows and was published by Digital Cafe. For gameplay, you are the Chex Warrior, a soldier that must save the planet Bazoik from the evil Phlegmoids. The Phlegmoids are slimy green invertebrates that shoot mucus projectiles. So if you like Doom, check out this much simpler game and help rescue planet Bazoik. Another fun note is you can now find this game on Steam. Number 3. Sour Patch Kids World Gone Sour. You might not think your candy such as Sour Patch Kids would even have a video game, but in 2011, Capcom published World Gone Sour. It was made for Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360 by 2012. The story is that you are a green Sour Patch Kid who actually wants to be eaten? It is the Sour Patch Kids' ultimate goal, apparently. The game is a 3D side-scroller that has 13 levels and can be played with 2 people. To collect some items, you have to sacrifice other Sour Patch Kids, and there are checkpoints. This is one game to check out as it is a lot of fun, although it can be pretty difficult as well. Number 2. Smarties Meltdown. As we near the end of this list, we come to Smarties Meltdown, which is a third-person game published by Koch Media and was released in 2006 for the PlayStation 2. You play as a Smartie called Big Blue, who is supposed to stop the villain Dr. Soursweet before he takes over the Smarties factory ship they live on. The suit you wear is called the Exosuit. It does need constant energy, so there are various methods to recharge the suit. Big Blue can speed up or collect energy balls from the enemies he defeats along the way to recharge said suit. It isn't the most sophisticated game, but it seems like a cool little game to try. And number 1. Red Bull's Red Bull Gaming Sphere. For this entry, we were going to discuss one Red Bull game, but then we learned about the Red Bull Gaming Sphere. And there's a lot to say about this, but we're going to give the basic outline. The Red Bull Gaming Sphere is a place players can go to play weekly and monthly events with other players, go to PC build workshops, and meet and greets with influencers, to name only a few of its features. So definitely check this out if you like competing with other players and want to learn a lot of new things. And with that, we've come to the end of our video. We hope you enjoyed this School of Boredom Extra Credit number 20, 13 video games based on food items. I've been your host, Bats, and as usual, we'll see you next time. Think for yourselves, and keep it creepy. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you enjoyed this one and would like to see more of our weird, creepy, odd, eccentric, or strange content as soon as it comes out, please feel free to click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. We'll see you later. Keep it creepy.